Howdy. Big news today. I bought the Street Bob that I did the first ride video on. Got my sissy bar backpack thingy all packed up. Gonna take her for a ride and talk to you about why I bought a Harley, why I bought a cruiser, and why I bought the Street Bob. If I can find neutral, I will do that for you. Neutral on these things is a bit of a enigma. Still not used to the forwards on this thing, although we'll talk more about that in a bit. So let's start with question number one. Why buy a cruiser? I think to answer that question, I have to talk to you about my age. I just turned 50. So if you want to make an old man happy, wish me a happy birthday in the comments below. And this motorcycle was a birthday gift to myself. And I really wanted a cruiser. And the reason I wanted a cruiser was because I have 3 other motorcycles in the garage that serve different purposes. I have an R9T Urban GS, which is kind of my touring bike, if you will. I have a SV650, which is more of my sporty all-day bike. And I have a DR650, which is my camping bike slash, light trail bike, if I can ever get it running. But the SV and the R9T have a common problem, and that is they share a very cramped knee angle. I'm about 5'11", and my knees are pretty cramped up on both of those bikes. And as I've gotten older, that's become a little bit of an issue. It's nothing that I can't deal with, but it's just not pleasant. And on the SV650, I also get some shin pain as well. So overall, I wanted a cruiser. I wanted that big, heavy cruiser experience with a big torquey motor. And I wanted forward control so that my knees are not cramped up. And I wanted a nice wide seat so my butt was nice and comfy. And I just wanted really something that was different than what I had today. So now that we've answered why buy a cruiser, which is kind of obvious, why buy a Harley brand cruiser? Well, for starters, I did look at other types of cruisers. I started my search in the metric arena, and one of the things that I discovered was that all of the Japanese cruisers all have very bland engines by design. And I always thought that the V-twin design itself gave those engines kind of that natural choppiness, but turns out it has to do with that, plus the crank design and the cam. And the Japanese just tend to make these engines very smooth. I believe they think that choppiness that you have in an American motorcycle is a bit lowbrow, but I find their engines to be very bland and without character. So all of those bikes were immediately out, and I wish it was different because, for example, the Honda Phantom 750 thing, it looks pretty nice, but it's boring. You can make it louder, but you can't make it have more character. I don't necessarily agree that loudness equals character. So what about the R18, you ask? Well, the R18 is amazing looking. I think aesthetically, that bike is just epic. They have done such an amazing job. I don't care what anybody says about the size of the jugs. The R18 is just, oh wow, it's just great. But those big old jugs that I love, they get in the way of putting on forward control, so immediately it was out. And that really only left me with 2 choices. Harley and Indian. I'm going to say something here that's going to irritate some Harley riders. Some of y'all are going to acknowledge it anyway, and some of y'all will be happy that I'm going to say this in some weird way. A lot of Harley riders are jerks, and they won't acknowledge, you know, with a low wave, their fellow two-wheelers on the road. If they're not Harleys, they flip people off a lot of times. They get upset. Their little delicate egos get upset when people pass them. I don't understand that. For whatever reason, a lot of them are kind of jerky, and that really put me off on the brand. I didn't want to go to like any Harley meets where people were just generally tools. Now, I'm happy to say that does not represent, or at least I don't believe it represents, the majority of Harley riders, but it did make me want to go look at Indian first, and I did that. And really, for me, the Indian options fell into two categories, as I wanted something like this bike. I wanted a Scout 101 or a Sport Chief. Both of those bikes have forward controls. Both of those bikes have a little fairing on the headlight, and they're very different. The Scout, very, very modern feeling motorcycle, and as amazing as it was not what I was looking for. Maybe I'll own one down the road, but I wanted that old school air-cooled vibe. And the Sport Chief has that old school air-cooled vibe in spades. I love that engine, the way it looks. I love the way you can hear it kind of squish the air through the air filter. It's just a cool bike. However, it had one, or really two, flaws that I just couldn't get over. First was, whenever you hit a bump on the Sport Chief, it clumped. I don't know what it was, but it was like clump, clump. And I didn't want it to feel that old school. I wanted it to feel, you know, sorted. The second thing, and perhaps the worst thing, is Indian has gone with this electronics package on their bikes where you get the LCD screen and it's round like a Speedo, and it takes like 45 seconds for the thing to start up. I mean, it's just awful. And I'm used to seeing a little, you know, like infographic and then the screen pop on, but what I'm not used to is seeing the screen go dark while a computer boots up. And it felt more like you were starting a computer than you were starting a motorcycle. And I just did not enjoy that. Maybe I would have gotten over it. And it's a shame, because I really, really liked that bike besides the clunk. So that brought me full circle back to the OG American brand, the brand that's been building bikes in America consecutively longer than any other brand, Harley Davidson. So I've decided I needed a cruiser. I've decided I needed a Harley cruiser. The question now became, what model Harley cruiser to get? I wanted something fairly current. I didn't want an older bike that needed a lot of TLC. So Softails were the obvious choice, 2018 and above. I wanted a 114, at least a 114 cubic inch engine. 117 would have been nice, but 114 was plenty, and something with low miles. That really put me into three bikes I was interested in, because I love a minimal aesthetic. The Street Bob, the Sport Bob, and the Lowrider S. Now, I wanted that Lowrider S really, really bad, but I was having a hard time finding one for less than $12,000 that wasn't beat up, that I already had forward controls on it. And yeah, they were just hard to come by. I think the bigger engine and the inverted forks really keeps the price of those bikes elevated in the used market. Not that they're an unfair deal for 12 to 13, but I had a budget. So Lowrider S's were pretty much out of the picture, and that was a shame. I feel like I might have been better served by a Lowrider S, and maybe I should have considered a slightly older one. I don't know. But that left me with the Street Bob and the Sport Bob. And here's the deal with the Sport Bob. It's a little too avant-garde, in my opinion, for what I wanted. I wanted that real Harley experience. I wanted the vibe of the engine and the feel of the powertrain, which the Sport Bob would have had. But that pill-shaped headlight, oh my God, I just don't get it. And also the fact that it has that stubby front tire, I guess I just could not get over the look of it. And I didn't want to buy it and like re-engineer the bike. You know, I wanted to just get on it and ride it and tweak what was already there. And the aesthetic of the Street Bob, in my opinion, really suited me. It had that bobber look, and I love the mini apes on this bike. You know, I love the exposed headlight, although it's not my favorite headlight. But overall, this aligned closer to the look and the presence on the road that I was looking for compared to the Sport Bob. So no offense to you Sport Bob guys and gals out there, it's just not my cup of tea. Also, the prices of the Street Bob, maybe because of the 114 engine that it had up until 2025, the prices of this bike, they tend to depreciate a little more than the other two bikes that I mentioned. And I got this bike at a very strong, what I feel was a strong deal, considering it had a lot of accessories that, in my opinion, really added to the value of the bike. While I don't believe that you should pay for accessories, like I hate it when people say I put $5,000 in a bike, therefore I'm going to charge you $5,000 more. I mean, y'all can just take a long walk up a short pier. But this bike did have the Harley cruise control added and Vance and Hines slip-ons. It had the Screaming Eagle tuner. It had the forward controls installed. It had a sundowner seat. It had a little sissy bar on it. And most of those things, I'm forgetting some things, but most of those things, in my opinion, added some tangible value to the bike. So I ended up getting all of the accessories for about an 80% discount on top of a rock bottom price for a Street Bob. So I got a pretty good deal on this bike. And that was important to me. You know, again, I had a budget I had to maintain, and I wanted to minimize the spend after the bike was purchased. So, bonus question before I wrap up. Do I feel like a Harley brother? I really don't. I think you could look at me and tell that I'm not the typical Harley bro guy. I don't have any tattoos. I can't grow a beard. So there's two dings against me right there. Also, I enjoy a really nice full face helmet, although I'm willing to make some compromises there. And I feel like I probably fit the Dyno Bro aesthetic more, or at least if I was going to re-gear, that's where, you know, the way I would go. But I'm riding Softail, so I guess I'll have to be a Dyna foe rather than a Dyna bro, but that's cool. I mean, I'm not looking to fit in with the kids on the Dynas anyway. So in closing, I need to ask a quick favor. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and tickle that like button if you don't mind. And I have a question for you. I'll really appreciate your feedback in the comments. If this was your bike with the mods that it has, and you were a Harley person, what would you change and why? I'm just curious. I know I'm going to get a lot of feedback about T-bars probably, or different kinds of handlebars, but I'm also more curious from a functional standpoint. What would you do to it? What would you change? Would you mess with the brake? Would you mess with the tire? You know, if you've got experience in this area, share your wisdom with me and others. I really would appreciate it, and I'm sure other folks would. So that's it, y'all. Until next time, keep your wheels down and your grins up, and I will talk to you in the next video. Peace.